You're bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at nearly forgotten media and decides whether it should be forgotten forever or remembered for all long time. My name is Steve, and with me is my co-host.
I am Yahel. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be sitting here talking with you after a sort of 2-week kind of break. How about yourself?
By the power of Grayskull and the way of magic, I am doing great.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't even know where to begin with that. It makes me want to launch into so many different mixed paths of some joy, some hate.
You just, if you were good, you would get it. But if you're bad and evil, then you just don't get it, bro.
Bro, them's fighting words.
This is the new He-Man. His new adventures. He says, bro. He loves avocado on his toast.
And he's not really involved with it too much. I have a lot more to say about the new He-Man than I thought I was going to.
Well, we're talking. I'm referring to the new adventures of He-Man.
It's so confusing.
Not Masters of the Universe Revelation.
Right, okay, there. That yeah, I sent out a tweet before this. I said we're going to talk about new He-Man and also new He-Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just have to sort all that out for sure. So, should we just launch right into, let me make sure I've got this correct, the new adventures of He-Man?
Let's do it.
All right.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right, everyone, just a reminder, if you're joining us live and, I don't know, you got to go 10 to your collection of He-Man action figures instead of finishing the show, you can always pick it up later on YouTube or via the podcast version, which is available wherever you get podcasts. But we're glad that you're here, and hopefully we can help either bring down or lift up the new adventures of He-Man.
You have this smile. You have this strange smile on your face when you said that. We're glad that you're here, as if though you're secretly remorseful that people are here to have to listen about the new adventures of He-Man.
Well, people need to know about it. It's like drugs in the 90s, Dare. We have to teach people about the new adventures of He-Man as well as other animated shows so they can decide for themselves whether they want to partake in said animated film. But wow, this was so. All right, you already mentioned earlier that actually, I guess when I pitched this to you, that you'd never heard of the new adventures of He-Man. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had no idea that this existed. I didn't check to see when this came out, but I mean, I would assume by the animation style, we're talking about mid-90s or something.
1990.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I guess I would have been 10 and too mature.
Well, I wasn't too mature. I remember randomly catching an episode. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was the middle of summer, or I stayed home sick from school or something, and I was just like, this is something. Because I mean, at that point, He-Man had been gone for a little bit, at least the animation, and I remember seeing commercials for the toys. And then here comes the new 90s style He-Man, which, wow, it is, I mean, doesn't he look just so 90s compared to, it's like he went from who did he go from? You could say that He-Man was like a Schwarzenegger, Conan the Barbarian type. And then in this, what is he, who is he there?
I don't know, man. All that he's missing are pouches.
No.
To like really, but if it was 1990,
No.
I think it was just a little before Pouches.
No,
were a thing.
Pouches would have made him cooler. At least it would have made sense because, like, he pretty much walks around the entire. Like, he's shirtless the entire episode.
Well, Steve, when you look that good, I mean,
Well-
why even buy a top?
Sure, it's like he's it's like he's a wrestler who's always in his gimmicks or his gear.
Yeah.
Like
So, I guess people really have seen this and they didn't like it. Like Historic Nerd just commented that Dare was actually discontinued by police departments because they saw an uptick in drug use.
Yep, that's true.
Like how this show caused an increase of toys thrown in the trash.
Actually, they weren't all thrown into the trash, Historic Nerd or people. They were actually, once this line failed, they were repurposed into Demolition Man action figures.
Like based on the Stallone movie.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, the Stallone movie. Yep, which I think
For
is,
some reason, I started thinking of Judge Dredd. I'm sure you were. No wonder you were like, "Yeah, the Stallone movie, you idiot."
well, they're similar, but it's funny because this is basically the Demolition Man treatment for He-Man because they go to the past to bring him to the future, and then inadvertently also grab Skeletor with him. But before we get too deep in the plot, let's go through a bit of the IMDb here. So we've got the New Adventures of He-Man, not Masters of the Universe Revelation. That's later. It went from 1990 to 1991. Production companies are C&D, whatever. It's like they were like C&C Music Factory, like afterward. Then Mattel, of course. Parafrance Communication, which I imagine is like probably the Canadian company because this is a joint U.S. and Canada animation, like if that means anything to you. It's Canadian anime. There you go. And then Paravision International SA, and our first episode was directed by Keizu Terada, which, I mean, great name, but
Yeah, that sounds like a member of like one of the K's on Sex and Star Trek Voyager.
I was gonna say like a member of the Yakuza, and like they just
that too.
they just threatened Mattel into giving this guy a job. And the series, as well as this episode, was written by Jean, or is it Jean? Jean
Probably John.
Chopin and Jack Olisker. Boy, they made my tongue do some weird stuff there. Yeah, sorry. We'll launch into the synopsis before we get to the actors here, and then you can take
Steve,
it. What's up?
Did you have any of the toys for this line since you were watching it?
No, but I remember our neighbor. He had a flog, and I remember it. I mean, that sounds really weird, but you remember the
That
bad
does
guy.
sound weird.
The bad guy. His name is Flog, the purple one, who looks
Was
like
this the same neighbor that was like showing you those movies that you weren't supposed to see?
No, this kid was like, he was like your basic spoiled rich kid who like had all the toys, and we would just go over there.
Well, apparently, Historic Nerd in the chat was saying that the toys came with a VHS of the first episode. He said it did not make you want to keep the toys, but yeah, that's interesting that it came with the VHS, because usually the idea is the cartoon comes out to get you to buy the toys. So theoretically, if you are buying the toys, you've probably already seen the cartoon. So kind of odd.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, they this did not make me want to buy any toys,
Yeah.
but I do remember, because that's Flog right there on our slideshow. I don't know if you can see it or not. He's I think he kind of looks like a Neo Sapien a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad you agree. But yeah, I remember the figure was actually pretty cool. Better than this show, I'll tell you that. But anyway, here's the synopsis, the extra long one, because why not? Okay. He-Man is the legendary, most powerful in the universe, and the mighty warrior of the planet Eternia, and defender of the mysterious Castle Grayskull. With his special powers, and with his weapon, the Sword of Grayskull, He-Man fought the evil Skeletor, who bid to rule Eternia and discover the secrets of Grayskull. He-Man has been summoned to the planet Primus, a world under threat from a band of evil mutants from the nearby planet Deneberia. Deneberia? I don't even remember them saying it. But Skeletor has joined forces with the mutants in his goal of universal conquest, with help from his new companions, the Galactic Guardians, a loyal squadron of soldiers led by Captain Hydron and Lieutenant Flipshot, teenage girl Drissy, and her brother Kaz and Darius, head of the Galactic Council. He-Man sets out to defend Primus, the band, from Skeletor and evil music agents and executives. I added that part in.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So, I don't know. Did you want to take a look at some of these actors? We basically got a bunch of nobodies here.
Yeah, there's not a lot of names in here. The only people I recognized was there's the guy Alessandro Giuliani that was, and he does the voice of L in the American dub of Death Note. And he's also plays a pretty big role in the Battlestar Galactica reboot. Michael Donovan, I recognize his name. He's done a bunch of voice stuff, including some voiceover work in the Star Trek 2013 video game. There's no need to do a thing for it because he just did like grunts, from what I understand. So I don't consider him to be part of the canon.
Okay, all right, if you say so. I had my finger on the button, whatever that means.
I mean, save that button, though.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So something may come up. But, yeah, I mean, dude, Long John Baldry is one of the voice actors.
Oh, man, I remember 12 inches of his work.
Yeah, why does everything we watch have, like, some like 70s porn name actors in there?
I think maybe it's these either they're in their early days of acting, they wanted a memorable stage name, so they went the porn route for some reason. And this isn't porn related, but I do find it funny that the voice of He-Man is Gary Chalk. They couldn't hold out for like Mark Marker because he was too expensive. They just had to go with Gary Chalk. I apologize for that dad joke, everyone.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
It sounded good in my head, but man, was I wrong. See, it's weird. They show this lady here. I guess she must come along later as the voice of Teela. But I don't recall there being any Teela in this episode. Was there?
No, not in the first episode. No.
Yeah, because if there's one thing I've learned lately, it's that the entire show should revolve around Teela. But anyway, so yeah, basically, what we have here is the Demolition Man version of for He-Man, the New Adventures of He-Man. I can say right off the bat that the new logo absolutely sucks. It looks like the cover of a 90s Trapper Keeper. Like,
yep. It looks like very Fox Kids.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, if that makes any kind of sense.
It does. It really does. But yeah, let's a short little walkthrough. Basically, the show opens in the most boring way possible with some kid playing with. All this animation reminds me of like Zelda, the Zelda cartoon. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah.
Like, they all felt very Zelda to me. But yeah, this little kid saying he's gonna beat up the mutants, and they're in the most like boring, barren, like, I guess future. Is it supposed to be a utopia?
Yeah, I think so. Like, they're supposed to live in like the nice, I don't know,
the nice part of the galaxy,
area, whatever.
And so the mutants attack, and like basically their elder is like, oh, I've talked to these weird crystal things, and
because they have like a big shield protecting the planet,
right? And
the mutants are trying to break through the shield. They can't, but the elder is like, talk to the crystal things, and he's like, hey, I know every time we get attacked, one of you. It basically implies that one of these crystal beings dies every time that like they're attacked, and they're losing so many of them that the shield's gonna break any moment. You know, maybe with the next attack.
Right, so they come up with this great idea to get He-Man, but but the vague prophecy, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't actually say He-Man. They say they have to get the one who possesses the magic and the might. Is that
The power.
Oh, the
and
power and the
mag-
magic.
and the way of the magic.
I think the magic and the might sounds better, but you don't get the power in there, and we all know that He-Man's about power. So they send back Captain Hydron Collider. Well, they don't say Collider, and Flipshot to go back in time via this snail-shaped time vessel to go get He-Man to bring him to the
By the way,
future.
Steve, how bad are these people that problem solving? That they're like, okay, well, they've outlawed on this planet fighting, so they can't defend themselves. That was another weird thing. Fighting is outlawed, so they can't fight the mutants.
Kind
All
of
they
like
can do is be
Demolition
protected.
Man.
Yeah, all they can do is be protected by the shield. So their way around this is to get somebody else to do the fighting for them. But rather than just like, I don't know, go to a nearby planet or, somewhere else, or I don't know,
Gotta
recruit
go
somebody.
back in time.
We've got to learn how to tear down the laws of physics and travel back in time. Like, I don't know, so convoluted, so ridiculous.
It's just lazy writing, and I mean, we might as well sort of just power through this this walkthrough. I mean,
yeah, please,
they like Captain Hydron and Flipshot, which look incredibly lame in their character design, and that's like one of the big cons for the whole thing is that they basically stripped away all the epicness of Masters of the Universe, and what you're left with is, well, this. Just a bunch of lame guys who are always wearing their armor for some reason. They go back in time. They get... Flipshot and Hydron are really bad at their jobs. They meet Skeletor first, and man, what did you think of this Skeletor voice?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good. I don't know what's worse, the design of like his skull.
Oh, it's so weird.
I guess they just wanted him to be more expressive, maybe. That was the thinking behind it, or I don't know. Very strange. It
when you
barely looks like Skeletor.
Yeah, but when you add like eyes and a mouth into the skull, like just, I don't know, it just ruins it. You're no longer a Skeletor. I don't even know what you are at that point.
But the weird thing is, like, some of the art, like the promo art and some of the art on the toys, like he's got like a skull.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it looked like. It looked like he was like had like a plastic face or something in the show. It's really weird.
It was like, I don't know. I could just imagine that at this point things were getting a little bit softer in the 90s, and the executives were just like, we find Skeletor's face to be a little problematic. Can we lighten it up a little, for the kids? But anyway, and also Skeletor's voice, I don't know. They try to make him...
good.
Yeah, they try to make him really funny, too. Like, there's this scene where he accosts a guard, and he was like, only I may tell you to breathe. In fact, why don't you just stop breathing now?
Skeletor says that he's so happy that he's smiling, and he goes, see, I'm going to smile. And of course, his face doesn't change because it's supposed to be a skull. And then he tells the guy, like, oh, you're not allowed to. I didn't tell you to smile. In fact, you can only breathe when I tell you to breathe.
Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, gosh. I don't know. I don't know if they were, I'm like, who is that for? Are they trying to, like, sneak in some humor or something? Or are they just trying...
I don't know, man. Like, I couldn't tell if they were trying to establish that Skeletor is an evil dickhead or a hilarious dickhead.
Right, because the original Skeletor was a hilarious dickhead.
Right, right. And it worked.
Right. I think they were just trying to recapture that magic, and it failed. Anyway, like, so Hydron and Flipshot, they basically get conned by Skeletor. Then He-Man shows up. Skeletor's like, ooh, this guy's bad news. You need to take him out, boys. And then they end up fighting, and this is just shows the lazy writing. Flipshot and Hydron are just like, well, why don't we just take them both? Like,
yeah.
So they load them onto the snail time vessel-y thing, take them to the future where they continue to fight. Like, the mutants also show up I think they show up before and then but it doesn't really matter.
No, the mutants show up right, like literally within 30 seconds of them getting back, bringing He-Man and Skeletor. And I don't know, man. Like, yeah, they were like, oh, the time machine thing is like going now, because I guess I can't control
Right.
when the time ship needs to come and go. So they hadn't figured out who was good. Cause it was pretty funny though when like Skeletor convinces the guys that he's actually a good guy.
Yeah, that was funny, and it also just shows how stupid they are. Because I mean,
Yeah, they're idiots.
Who in a million years is gonna believe a guy that looks like that was like ever good? I mean, I don't know.
Hydro and Flipshot are idiots. Although one of them does say at one point, "I didn't think good would look like this."
Right. I don't know.
He's
I mean,
a prejudiced racist.
I guess they tried to write it in. I don't know. That makes me the racist then, I guess.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, I should really take a look.
Maybe if people like you didn't make these kind of prejudiced comments about people whose heads are just a skull, maybe they wouldn't have to be evil.
That's a very good point. You know, I'm gonna talk to my life coach later. You've really given
Please
me
do.
something to think about.
Please do.
Yeah, so there's a battle that ensues, and I actually have to say that the battle was okay. I mean, wouldn't even call it a battle, more of a scuffle, really. And of course, He-Man dispatches the mutants, and Skeletor and Flog decide to team up to take on He-Man and the rest of the forgettable characters. And then we're basically off to the races. Although there was a pretty unintentionally funny PSA at the end. Did you watch that? God, that was...
Yeah.
You want to walk us through that PSA?
So our two bumbling idiots, what's his name?
Hydron and Flipshot.
Hydron and Flipshot. They're like in a car that I guess is supposed to be like automated, and it's like not driving or whatever. So like one of them flips out and starts freaking out, like, "Oh, we can't get out. We're trapped
He
in here."
flipped out after like 10
2
seconds. Yeah.
2 seconds. He's like, "Oh my god, we're gonna die," and blah blah. And then Hydron's like, "Oh, hold on, let's just make a phone call." He pushes a button and he like calls like a little robot on the screen, tells him, "Hey, we got this problem." And the robot's like, "Oh, it's probably this. We're gonna fix it." And then Hydron's like, "You see, you gotta stay calm in an emergency."
You know, I was actually glad. It was comforting that they kept in the PSAs, I'll say. Although that was so stupid. I mean, much like...
Well, this is back when they had to have like a certain percentage of the show be educational content.
Sure, Tipper Gore was breathing down their neck. So wow, what riveting here. Why don't you... All right, I'll just throw in a few good things here. I kind of like some of the ship designs at the very beginning, like that big bug-looking ship, and
yeah, it was interesting. Very 90s.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm reaching here, like, for good stuff.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I also, I mean, of course, isn't it convenient that the mutants' main, like, mothership is a giant red skull, which is perfect for Skeletor. I mean, the animation, although, like, it was poor choices overall for the character design, the animation is a little bit better than the original show. Where they completely fail is in the script, where it's just the reasons for things to happen. It's just like they went with the laziest, easiest choice they could come up with. I'm sure they went to yell, "Hey, they're kids, they're stupid, they're not gonna care." But I mean, obviously they didn't, because they didn't sell any toys, and we're probably the only ones talking about the New Adventures of He-Man in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as good things, yeah, that skull ship was pretty cool. That's about it. I thought like the writing was really, really bad. And I get it's a kid's show, right? So it's not going to be Shakespeare. But like there were like tropes in there that I think even kids would roll their eyes at. Like,
I'm sure I did. Yeah, back then.
You can only say things like the chosen one and the power and the magic. You can only do that kind of stuff so many times before even kids will go like, I've seen this a million times,
Yeah, and the attempts at comedy were also pretty terrible. Aside from the aforementioned, Skeletor, like forced Skeletor comedian slash villain, they also had that run-in with the guys who created the time vessel, who were basically just throwaway characters that you didn't even need to have in there. I mean,
They were just like arguing over who should get
invented
credit
it.
for inventing it. Yeah.
It was just a waste of like the animators' like wrists basically to draw those guys.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. I thought it was weird how like immediately like He-Man just accepts that this is his destiny to go into the future, and because there's a weird scene with like him and his parents when he tells them he's gonna go to the future and do this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there was no. I mean, I wouldn't, as you said, I wouldn't expect Shakespeare. There was no emotion. He was perfectly ready to just go to the future and leave everyone behind and not care. And to add to the more laziness of the writing, they also never explained why He-Man's look, or anyone's look. I guess He-Man and Skeletor were the only ones in this episode. I guess his parents from the previous time, but it would have been so easy. You know, you have the original He-Man show up in the future, and then they do that old trope, and it is a trope, but it's there for a reason, where someone goes, "Oh man, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb here in Primus. Let's go in here and give you a makeover." And then he comes out shirtless with blue pants. I mean, like, how hard would that have been to do?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they were really worried about...
They weren't.
I'm not even sure it's supposed to be like the same one. You know, I don't think that there's any continuity tied to the originals. Is there?
I mean, according to the wiki, it is. Like, the thing that happened is Funimation went out of business. So, you know, Mattel went and found these people to edit it. I mean, it's just a light continuation, really, I guess.
Funimation? Like the Funimation
No,
that's around
I'm sorry,
now?
not Funimation. Shoot. I'm, like, missing the name of the people who animated He-Man. It's Animotion. It's Animotion, something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, for that name, they deserve to go out of business.
Oh no, they animated so many good things back in the day. Hold on, let me find it real quick. Oh, never mind. I'll figure it out later. But
They got what they had coming.
you never watched, like, you know how there were two Ghostbusters cartoons? Like,
Yeah. The real Ghostbusters and the other one.
They didn't do the they did the other one. But
The one based on the movies.
No, not the one with like Winston and Ray and Egon. There's like a talking monkey. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the real Ghostbusters.
This is like the new Adventures of He-Man and then the new He-Man.
No. So the one that was not like Egon and Winston and all them.
Yeah, I know.
That one was called the real Ghostbusters. Yeah, real. Anyways, whatever.
Right.
This isn't about the Ghostbusters. Although I do wish the new Adventures of He-Man was so dead that it would be unable to be viewed by me earlier today.
Well, I apologize for bringing it up to you, but you know what else this reminds me of? Did you ever watch? All right, you watched the Fox Spider-Man cartoon, right?
Yeah, a little bit of it, not a lot.
Oh, well, when it ended, they did Spider-Man Unlimited, which was supposed to be Spider-Man 2099, but I guess they didn't want to go with, you know, Miguel, the Spider-Man who was from 2099. So their excuse was to take Peter Parker and put him in the future of 2099. Is any of this ringing a bell?
Yes, it does.
And I remember in the first episode, he's in the rocket or whatever to go up, and for some reason, the Venom and Carnage symbiotes just happened to hitch a ride. So they did it first. New Adventures of He-Man did it first. And it's funny because Spider-Man Unlimited also failed miserably. Also because for some reason they couldn't get the rights to the spider on the suit. But anyway, that's another story. That's another video, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
so yeah, overall, what would you give it?
Oh man,
what would you say?
I say it needs to be tossed into the pit of obscurity. Oh wait, let me do my bumper first.
Rated. That is the question.
All right, so what would I give it? I'd say there was a reason why this was It's kind of hard to, well, it wasn't that hard to find. We just found it on YouTube, and we forgot to tell everyone that if you want to watch it for yourself, there's actually pretty good copies of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Although you shouldn't, because it should be tossed into the pit of obscurity, never to be heard from again.
I would agree with you. Toss into the pit of obscurity. I did notice that the comments were turned off on the video, so that generally means that a lot of negative comments
All right, hold
being
on.
thrown on it.
I got another a brand new, never before seen bumper. Here it comes.
The heathens have spoken. You are obliterated.
All right.
That was great.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a way to like actually have the like the media there and then it disappear, but whatever. I'll figure that out another time. But thanks. Yeah. So wow, I think this is our first media that we've destroyed.
I think so. Yay!
So no one
You
will,
did it, He-Man.
Yeah, no one will ever speak of He-Man or the new adventures of He-Man ever again. And if you hear something about it, it's just it's like a weird Matrix mistake.
Yeah, just fight whoever's talking about it.
Right. Okay, so we need to switch slideshows here. Let's see. We'll make that go away. And it's the return of Hot Topics.
Hot topic. Not cold, not warm, but hot, 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 hot topic.
All right. We started talking about this show. This show being Masters of the Universe Revelations, a.k.a. Kevin Smith's He-Man. All the way back when we first started the show, when we thought we were going to be able to fit all kinds of little segments into it and everything without going over 4 hours. So I thought it was only fitting that we actually get around to watching it. And of course, like, it probably deserves to be shown along with the new adventures of He-Man, since that was the first time He-Man was rebooted. We don't really need to do an IMDb for this, because all the people who are in, most of the people who are in it are super famous. You got your Mark Hamill as Skeletor, Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela.
Which, to be fair, she's not doing a lot these days.
Nope, I can see why, or hear why.
Really, I actually really liked her voice acting.
I thought she was phoning it in. Like,
Really? Like,
yeah.
honestly, like, Teela and Evil Lynn were, like, my two favorite as far as voice acting.
I mean, I thought Evil Lynn was fine. But yeah, so you guys all know the score by now. This is, I guess, a sequel to He-Man. It just sort of picks up Teela as being promoted to Man-at-Arms, and then basically a big, awesome battle breaks out. And spoiler alert, and this is something that, I mean, everyone's already been talking about on the internet anyway, since this thing has come out. Skeletor and He-Man are basically killed or at the end, and that is the end of episode 1. So
Steve, a question though.
Yes.
Did you watch the entire series?
No, I only watched the first episode.
Okay, same here.
Okay, yeah, I promised. I mean, I don't even. Yeah, I'll probably continue watching. I mean, that was a question I was going to save to the end, but let's just get right into the good and the bad here.
What? Did you notice? I'm sorry. I know we
okay.
don't want to go through the whole IMDb and
No,
IMDb.
sure, go for it.
But I did notice Jason Mewes was in it.
Who did he do?
Kevin Smith just can't help himself. He was Stinkor.
Oh, right. So that makes sense.
And there was somebody else that was odd. Oh, Alicia Silverstone was another one that I was like, what?
Who was
Really?
she?
Queen Marlena.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
and Henry Rollins. I thought that was interesting that he's in there.
Netflix they were like, we have to get every possible name we can in this.
Yeah.
You will like
They even
it.
got They even got Tony Todd in there, Mr.
Oh, the
Candyman
Candyman
himself.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Or as I know him as Kern, Worf's brother from Star Trek. y- or old Jake Sisko, or as the Hirogen in Star Trek Voyager. He's just a master actor in Star Trek.
Is now the time?
Yes, now is the time, Steven.
Ah! Oh no! We just entered another Star Trek connection. Ah!
I was wondering how you were going to do it. You sort of had a pseudo connection in the first one, but I knew it was going to come with this show. Wow, so there's even more famous people involved with this than I thought. But as we all know, names do not necessarily mean that it's going to be good.
Fair enough.
Before we get to the bad, let's talk about the good. What were your thoughts on this going in? Like, were you aware of all the sort of media spin machine that was going along, that was basically kicked up with this?
I stayed away from like everything about it, other than the original couple of pictures that were released of the character designs.
Sure.
But so I didn't know anything about He-Man and Skeletor going away in the first episode. So I went in pretty blind.
Yeah, I tried my best, but I found out a lot of stuff earlier than I would have liked that was just then considered speculation, but then the show came out and basically confirmed it all. But I was still determined to distance myself from all of that and just judge the show on its own merits.
Yeah. I wasn't too surprised, though, about He-Man and Skeletor. Well, maybe Skeletor, but He-Man, being taken out of it. I wasn't too surprised because one of the first things I noticed was, hey, this show's not called He-Man. He-Man wasn't in the title.
Right.
It was, whereas every other one has always been He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Exactly.
So I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't going to be so much about He-Man anyway. Well, so for me, I wasn't really, upset by it or...
No? All right,
whatever, but...
What if they did a Star Trek show, the original Star Trek, and Kirk and Spock were killed in the beginning, and then it was all based around Uhura? Would you still watch it?
You mean if they did a reboot?
Or yeah,
sure.
What would you think about that?
Right, because the original one would have to exist for me to then be possibly upset about it. Right. Honestly, If it was well written and it was good, I'd be okay with it, because ultimately, I'll explain why. I've already seen Kirk
Tons
and
of
Spock.
Kirk and Spock, sure.
So I'm open to the possibility of doing something new. However, I do think when you do something so dramatic, you really have to, do that with something dramatically good with your script.
Right. I think any sort of take can be executed well if you have some decent writers behind the pen.
Dude, I'm sure. You and I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm assuming that at some point Skeletor and He-Man are going to come back.
Sure, of course they are.
Maybe the next season, if not this one. They're going to come back.
Right, of course. I don't know. This is kind of sort of. It seems like a marketing ploy, or almost kind of like a bait and switch, where they almost want to anger the fan base so people get up in arms and talk about it. So say maybe the casual fan who hasn't watched a He-Man in a long time maybe gets mad and goes and watches it. That's the only
maybe.
But
my only thing about it is, I would say if this was on traditional cable, I could see that maybe. But since it's Netflix and all the episodes drop, and most people I think very few people are signing up for Netflix to watch He-Man. They didn't have a subscription before, So I don't think it's going to bring in a bunch of new subscribers or anything.
So therein lies, I guess the question is, what does giving them this version of getting rid of the main protagonist and going with side characters, who is that for? It's because it's not for the people who still been collecting this whole time. Who is it for, do you think?
Well, I think it could be a good strategy. Let me answer your question. Who's it for? I don't know, man, because this is still aimed at kids. It's like Y7, I think, was the rating, right?
Okay.
So it's still aimed at kids, and kids in 2021, like, let's face it, they weren't watching the original He-Man, right? So I don't know. In a way, if you're trying to sell toys, for example, like using this as a vehicle to sell toys, which I don't know how big of a motivator that is, although I do know that Mattel is involved with the production of the show.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I assume they want to sell toys. So my thinking is maybe they want to build up these secondary characters that in the past wouldn't have sold a lot of toys. Then, end of the season or maybe next season, you bring back He-Man and Skeletor, which are going to sell anyways. And now you have like a bunch of prominent characters.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I think the thinking is like, they would like kids to watch it. I don't know. I don't know. My kid is too young. I don't know any, like, all right, when I see kids at the park where I take my kid, I'm allowed to be
But why
there.
are you watching kids at the, oh, okay.
Nice try. Nice try. Like when I take my kid.
Have you had to like clarify this before? It was very quick.
Oh, I know how your mind works. But I just never see them playing with like He-Man stuff. It's mostly Marvel and Batman. That's what they're all about these days.
And Marvel and DC to like they're like big ensembles,
Sure.
that they lead towards. So
Sure.
And sorry to cut you off, but something that you made me think about when you asked about like the Star Trek, hey, what if they had done a reboot without Kirk and Spock? And when they did reboot the original series cast with the 2009 J.J. Abrams movies, one of the things that they did was it wasn't so much about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy like in the original series. They spread the love amongst the entire cast to kind of make everybody matter more. So I wonder if this is just how media is done now, kind of a thing.
Right, but I just think maybe just to armchair quarterback this thing. Like, why not keep He-Man around and flesh him out a little bit better? I guess because I have written in my notes that, okay, I assume they want to get rid of He-Man because he's like too powerful. He's like Superman, kind of one-dimensional. What do you do with that?
And he's kind of a Deus Ex Machina too.
Sure, he shows up.
He
and
can get you
saves
out of
the day.
anything.
But like I was thinking, they can do. This didn't even cross my mind that they were trying to get kids. I just assumed they wanted us 30-year-olds to keep buying toys.
I don't think so, Steve.
No, I think that's the only people who buy Masters of the Universe.
Well, I mean, they do want us to buy toys, but I think that they know that most of the 30 and 40-year-olds buying these toys
have kids.
They're going to buy them anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, I was going to say, and I guess it doesn't really make any sense now, thinking that kids might be involved. It's like, what if He-Man made a mistake, caused someone, like one of the good guys, to get injured or something? Then he could spend the whole series, like, questioning himself. Just to add a little something to,
I agree with you though. Like he should have been fleshed out. I would have preferred, again, I'm totally fine with him being taken out. I would have preferred though for it to happen maybe like 2 or 3 episodes in, because then it would make more of an impact.
Right.
That's the only thing. Cause like Tila has this big speech about how like, oh, all of you have been lying to me and this and that, which is true. I thought it was okay. Like, it definitely could have been better written.
Well, let's dive into that real quick. Okay, so I can get behind, Tila and the side characters show. No problem. Because, some of them are great. You got that robot guy. I can't remember his name. Stinkor's bad. It was so random when Moss Man showed up at the end, only to be burned to death.
Yeah, dude, I was surprised. Like the show, definitely more. I mean, I haven't watched the original He-Man in a long time, but definitely more violent.
Yeah, I mean, he stabs Skeletor through the gut. I mean, and maybe that's why I was like, yeah, this isn't for kids. I mean, I would say teens and up, maybe.
I think one of the things I've noticed is that like what PG movies allow now, I know this isn't a movie or PG, but is like basically what would have been in a PG-13 movie when we were growing up,
Right, right.
These kids are violent. Your son is violent, Steve. And you just
Oh,
have to
well,
admit
I mean,
it.
I think
And,
all kids are inherently violent. You know, it's my job to beat it out of them, which of course I would never do. Oh shoot, where was I going with all? Okay, here's the thing. Yeah, all right, we're gonna talk about the writing, because all right, I could get behind Tila, the outcast in whatever with a wacky band of side characters, maybe trying to resurrect He-Man or whatever it is they're doing. But the thing is, like, I really felt Kevin Smith, he was basically hired to deflect nerd rage and not because of his writing abilities. Like, the man can write a great comedy, like, and he has, and I'm a fan, but he's proven time and time again when he gets put into other genres that he doesn't really do a very good job. And I thought a lot of the dialogue was very hackneyed. And I know you can say, oh, well, you know, this is based off of an 80s kids cartoon show. But if you look at this thing, I mean, it is gorgeous. Like, the animation is amazing. And
the opening is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I was pumped, like, when we got
Me
through
too.
that. And then the battle was like, basically they in the first, I guess, first and second acts, I would say they gave us, or at least me, like the kind of show that I wanted, that was more like action based and looked beautiful, and they were just, you know, and there was action and it was good, and you know, and there was some quips here and there and some really lame dialogue that I didn't think worked, but that would have been fine.
But you know, the original series, I mean, I feel like when I was a kid growing up, I remember thinking that Orko was annoying and the
Sure.
dialogue was terrible. And I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
thinking
Was-
all the stuff with the cat being scared all the time was terrible. Even as a
Right,
kid, I
right.
was like, ugh.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm getting at. Like, I just want the writing to measure up to the animation of this show. That's all. Like, because it looks amazing, but it doesn't sound amazing. Like, if I was a blind person, and if I were to listen to a lot of these lines read back to me, I would go, ugh, that's awful. Like, that's all I'm saying. I'm saying it could have been better written. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. It didn't, definitely the dialogue didn't all work. I think the overall story for the first episode like sets up an interesting premise, because at the end of it I was like, okay, well, what are they going to do with Skeletor and He-Man, because you know they're not going to be gone forever. So
Right.
and I thought they did a good job of like kind of world building, you know, with setting up like Eternia and like Tila's motivations, you know, writing in the speech aside at
Right.
the end, like at least she had a reason to be like, no, F you guys, you know, like you were supposed to trust me and you didn't. Again,
Yeah.
the dialogue itself, not
Sure.
great.
I mean, it was
But
just, yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know. I was just gonna say, but her motivations like at least made sense. But they would have made, to your point earlier about waiting a little bit longer to get rid of He-Man. If we had been 2 or 3 episodes in, seen more of their camaraderie, more of her relationship with Adam, and then she finds out that he's lying. Because yeah, I get it. Her whole life she's been lied to, but to the audience, we've only been seeing her getting lied to for 20 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just felt forced. Like, I really felt the melodrama at the end really felt forced. Like, I just would have rather have had maybe more of like a straight sort of action, show-based show. I mean, of course I want, like, you know what? You know who I was thinking would have been able to make this really good? And that is the Samurai Jack creator. You ever watched that show?
No.
It's like, it's very little dialogue and all like style and action, basically. And I think that could have lended itself pretty well to this, but obviously they didn't go that way. I like some of the lines I wrote down here, like that scene when the king was like, you see that, Prince Adam? That's parental pride. Maybe I'll feel that about you someday. It's like, who says that to someone? Like,
You know what? Like, well, I mean, I thought it was weird I didn't think the idea behind the line was weird because there's plenty of like bad, shitty dads, that
Sure,
would
sure.
say something like that. Oh yeah, if only I could be proud of you. But parental pride, like that's so
Yeah,
awkward.
that's weird Kevin Smith talk. That just
Just
doesn't
like
work.
yeah, like even if he would have said a father's pride or something like
Yeah.
that, or a pride for a son, parental pride. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, which that's what leads me to believe that he was mostly hired to deflect nerd rage and not actually write a decent script.
That could be true, but to be fair, we don't know if they already told him, hey, this is what we want for the arcs,
Oh,
or this is all.
I'm
Or
sure
maybe
that
you do. I haven't read any. Like I said, I avoided reading about it.
no, I mean, I'm sure that's what they want. I'm sure they were like, this is what we're gonna do. Like, you write around this, and then I mean, you could tell that the dialogue is definitely Kevin Smith esque.
Yeah, I guess we should have before the again, just to try to avoid spoilers. That's why I didn't really look into it. But I guess we should have like checked into and ideally checked into who the executive producer is and who came up with the overall arc, and if Kevin Smith is just being the hired gun to
Right.
like
Well,
flesh
I
it out.
mean, we can do that real quick, I'm sure.
Well, if you want to look it up, I'll blab on so we don't have dead air. It's something people don't want in their cans, Steve. That's very current terminology for headphones, cans. But yeah, like you were saying, the animation, gorgeous opening. I thought the music was for the most part very good. Occasionally there were a couple like things that sounded a little generic music wise, but I thought the transformation from Adam into He-Man was really well done.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
And it's one of the things that at the end made me think, okay, He-Man's gonna come back because they invested so much time in that animation looking so cool.
Sure.
I can't believe that it's only going to be used once.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm sure he'll be back. Oh wow, the music is by Bear McCreary from Walking
Battlestar
Dead.
Galactica
And-
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
That's where he was.
And series writing credits is like Kevin Smith as story editor and written by, and then you got a bunch of other people that aren't involved. Or I mean, why did I say that? There's a bunch of other people who wrote
There's a bunch of people they give credit to. They're not involved though.
yeah. So I mean, as far as the series being produced by, I mean, you got a bunch of people who you've never really heard of before. Yeah, production management. Yeah, nothing really stands out. It looks like they put a lot of it on his back. So
Yeah.
we can
really
blame
think a lot
him.
of this. I really think a lot of this of our complaints comes down to don't get rid of He-Man in the first episode. Because the stuff with the dad even saying I don't think the stuff that you were saying felt forced. I don't feel it felt forced. I feel it felt rushed. Like it was too soon for it, Like if we would have seen a couple episodes of his dad being disappointed with Adam and Adam struggling with having to keep that hidden from his dad, that he's really He-Man,
Right.
that kind of stuff. But again, I mean, this is made for kids.
I don't think it is, man. I don't think it is. Like kids don't need all that melodrama at the end. They want to see pew pew lasers and swords.
But
clanging.
this kind of stuff gets put into like kids shows all the time now. I feel like, I mean, I don't watch a lot of kids shows, but whenever like I watch like maybe like a movie, an animated movie aimed at kids or whatever, you do tend to see like some slightly more adult themes in there these days. I
Well,
feel like and
the weird thing is that like sort of like the action kids show is like kind of dead. Like there's no. I mean, you've got the Warner Brothers animated Batman movies. Those are definitely geared towards adults.
yeah,
Like where
agreed.
are the Wildcats and Ultra Forces of today? Yahel.
I don't know,
or
man.
X-Men.
But like you were saying earlier, kids these days they're playing with like Marvel and DC like
Right.
action figures, and they're more than likely, let's face it, they're watching the movies, not reading the comics, right?
Sure.
So,
Well,
what they're used to seeing action wise does need to be a little bit more adult. And I mean, we can say like the Marvel movies in particular are very formulaic, but they do like have like relationships that are more adult than you would have seen like in a kids our animated cartoon in the 80s.
Well, sure. I mean, those Marvel movies are basically family action movies somehow. Um,
Where lots of people die, but it's okay.
do they? Like hardly any.
Well, it's always like
oh,
off
yeah,
screen,
they
you
snapped
know.
them away. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean this. I mean, did you watch the Castlevania Netflix show that was also
No, but
animated
well, I
by
mean,
these guys?
I've seen clips. I mean, it's not for kids.
No, I mean, yeah, it looks just as good as this does. Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
not for kids. I don't know. Like, yeah, you said it was a Y7. I would, I would feel maybe like, yeah, I guess that's a proper
Actually, it's
rating.
TVPG. It's
Okay.
TVPG.
Okay, that works
So
too.
I was wrong.
Um,
But I mean, really, like the only thing that stood out to me, and I thought it was Y7, but that I was like, ooh, that's like much darker than I expected was, and even for TVPG was Moss Man being burned alive. I was pretty surprised about.
Right.
And like it wasn't just like a quick thing. It was they showed him like an excruciating pain.
right.
You know,
Right.
like and then right after that, He-Man getting so mad that he tries to kill, or he does
Right.
kill apparently. Skeletor, like that's not something we would have seen even in the new adventures of He-Man.
You're right. I mean, this is definitely a step up from the past three versions of Masters of the Universe. Although I've heard that the one from 2003 is actually quite good.
Yeah.
Although I've never watched it. What did you
How does
think?
this compare to the original Masters of the Universe film, though?
Oh man, that's an interesting question.
With Robbie McNeil, aka Tom Paris, Nick Locarno from Star Trek. No need to hit the buzzer.
I'm not going to. Man, I really think we should do an episode for Masters of the Universe. The
Yeah.
film.
That should be its own separate thing. I was just kind of joking. I was just trying
Yeah.
to talk about Star Trek. But what did you think, Steve, about, and maybe we should do, or I don't know if, I guess we're not going to do good and bad for this because it's not like the main presentation, but what did you think about the character designs?
Oh, everyone looked great. Like I have,
Right?
I have no complaints about any of the visuals. All my complaints
Yeah.
are about the writing. Like the hackneyed Kevin Smith dialogue is what I
Yeah.
was what I hated the most. Like I don't even care that they got rid of He-Man and then Tila took over. It was just and I also I mean again, maybe if it wasn't so rushed, like it's like of course they made it to where the queen knew all along and the king, like that way they could make the king out to be the big jerk, and then Tila can stamp her feet and leave. Like that just felt like, of course they're gonna kick out Man of Arms, and then that's gonna make Tila mad. I mean, it was a little obvious, but I mean, again,
It just all happened so fast.
yes,
Like,
yeah, which makes it harder to suspend your disbelief a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, we're watching an animated
Steve.
cartoon.
There's a talking cat that was put into an airtight bubble by a flying orca, whatever he is.
Yeah, that was.
By the way, I did find Orko still annoying, but
Right.
less annoying than I found him as a child. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think you're right, man. Like, I think the dialogue itself is the biggest problem, or negative for me too. Like the story itself, depending on how the rest of the episodes play out, doesn't seem like it's bad. It's an interesting setup. I do feel like they did a lot of like decent world building,
Sure.
and a good job of making Eternia feel more like a place, you know? So that was good. I like that we saw like a lot of different like species in the background and that kind of stuff. So I'm interested in hoping that that'll play out in some kind of way. So there's a lot of good stuff, but the dialogue, like in some scenes, it's kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, like I rolled my eyes less when we watched like the original X-Men pilot, or cartoon, original X-Men pilot cartoon.
Fair.
Like, and I'm just like, and that was a show for kids. It's like, well, they're just so, Netflix is just so desperate to have people, I guess, with a built-in fan base or names, quote unquote, that I guess they just had to turn to Kevin Smith for that instead of, I mean, just get somebody else. I mean, not anyone from Game of Thrones, but somebody else.
Do you think, because I know Kevin Smith, he is legitimately a big comic book fan and this other stuff, and he's into lots of other pop culture things. I wonder if it's something like he wanted personally, and then Netflix was just like, well, great, we were gonna look for a name anyway.
Well, this is like kind of where the scandal comes in. And since we're never going to talk about this again, I mean, maybe we can talk about it after we've watched the whole series, but basically the big deal is there's a clip of him on his podcast, saying he never even liked He-Man. And then later he was saying, oh yeah, I used to watch it as a kid back in 1981. And then the show wasn't even on in 1981. So.
Well, look, I mean, he just might have forgotten, I don't remember what year it was on either. And I used to watch it as a kid. I mean, I know I watched it in Puerto Rico.
Sure.
So.
I mean, I can give him the benefit of the doubt for the second one, but I mean, it's okay if you weren't a fan to begin with. You can still make it good. I think it's just part of, he gets caught up in the Netflix marketing and spin machine. And, I mean, I don't think it's going to be good for him in the long run, at least credibility wise, if
he's set though. I mean, he would have to make a lot of blunders for to lose his credibility.
He already has, but somehow he
still
keeps.
People are still excited about him.
Well, what I think is funny is that people still make excuses for his later terrible movies, like the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which, I mean, I like Kevin Smith and liked his movies, and I want to see him succeed, but I'm not going to watch something and say that I like it just because he was involved if it wasn't good. And people's excuses.
Yeah, it's not like he's Patrick Stewart.
Or LeVar Burton, who directed Smart House, the greatest film ever that has a...
it's one of his many directing credits, thank you very much.
I mean, he's the Stanley Kubrick.
He hosted Jeopardy this last week. He's,
Did you watch it?
I watched a couple. Well, I don't really like Jeopardy, so I just watched some clips.
Yeah, I don't really like game shows either. But yeah, I mean, I want Kevin Smith to succeed. But I mean, every time I give him a chance, he usually comes up short. You're
basically saying he's TNA wrestling from the mid to late 2000s. Is that what you're saying?
Hey, that's when we were watching. Yeah,
I know, and I felt burned many times to the point where I will not watch Impact now, no matter how good of a job I hear they're doing.
They are doing a good job. But that's
I don't believe you, Steve, and I'm done with this podcast.
And speaking of being done, I guess we should be. All right, let's sum all this up. All right, so we want better writing. I guess my question to you is, will you continue to watch?
Yes.
I mean, there's only 4 more episodes, 4 or 5 more episodes. So, I mean, why not?
They're only 25 minutes apiece. I mean,
I'll just watch it on mute and make up my own dialogue to go with it.
Just stare at the pretty pictures.
Yeah, I'll just say parental love over and over again. But is there anything else left to say about Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not really a Kevin Smith fan. I actually don't like a lot of his movies, and
well, we all know that you hate comedy and hate laughter. I
don't like being happy. We all know that. No, but I just think he's I think some of his movies are overrated. But I did not have high expectations going into this, so that may also be why because I think I liked it a little bit more than you. I don't think either of us hated it or anything.
No,
but
no.
Because I had low expectations because it's Kevin Smith. I was happy I thought there was going to be a lot more forced comedy in it, so I was happy that didn't happen.
You mean like the inventors of a time machine arguing about who the...
Right. And to be fair, Steve, I also watched this right after I watched the new Adventures of He-Man, So it was a palate cleanser for sure.
Sure, yeah, this is way better than that, without a doubt.
And they kept like a lot of the looks of the characters. He-Man looks cool, Skeletor looks cool, man, like everybody looks cool. The Castle Grayskull looked awesome. Music was cool. They had like a lot of like metal music in there. So there's a lot of good things going for it.
Sure, absolutely.
The dialogue is, if the dialogue was just even a little bit better,
right,
a little bit better, it would go a long way to improve.
Yeah, I just felt like he was trying to be clever, like especially with. They just needed to reel it in or something. Just get someone else. Just get someone else. But yeah, like I will continue to watch, and who knows, we can tack on a review of the entire series to something else. But anyway, we're gonna transition over here to back to the main stage. And we are going to talk about what we're going to do next week. Do you remember what that is, Yahel?
Oh, Steve, of course not. I've had 3 beers during this podcast.
Whoa, I'm on my second Mike's Hard Lemonade or Harder Lemonade.
Oh, hot.
Yeah.
That's what Long John Bradley drinks. Harder lemonade.
Definitely not Gary Chalk. He's a real straight arrow kind of guy. Stays after school, always.
He only has sex to procreate, from what I understand.
And only in the missionary position.
Yes, only in the missionary position. He keeps his shirt on, too. It's not like that New Adventures of He-Man, always shirtless.
Showing off his abs that you could grate cheese on.
I've been drinking Yingling Flight, which I think is a new beer. I just got it because of the low carbs and low calories. It's only 4.2% alcohol.
Let me see what the percentage is. 8% here for a Mike's Harder. But anyway, we're going to watch G.I. Joe Extreme. Yes. We're going to keep
I agree to this.
We're going to keep in line with our 80s. Because, all right, so we've got Masters of the Universe out of the way. A lot of people may or may not know that there was a Snake Eyes movie that came out in July, a.k.a. G.I. Joe Origins, and it bombed. So now while G.I. Joe is still fresh in the minds of the American public, we're going to talk about the nearly forgotten G.I. Joe Extreme, which I'm sure is going to be just as good as the New Adventures of He-Man.
Yes. It's got Extreme in the title, so must be good.
It's going to be filled with 90s goodness. You just wait.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think my voice is almost completely shot here. Is there anything else that people need to know before we sign off, Yahel?
No. Well, are you working on anything?
I mean, I am still working on the comic book. I'm hiring a colorist from France because I'm all about multinational diversity.
Yeah, actually, dude, that's pretty cool though, and that might actually help too with getting a bigger audience. Just color it yourself. You got Microsoft Paint.
I've got Photoshop, thank you.
Photoshop.
That's how I was able to create this beautiful lime green that accompanies our show here. No, I've decided that I'm 39. By the time it takes me to color these 8 pages, will probably be another season of Masters of the Universe Revelation out. And I don't feel like waiting that long.
Tila will be dead by then. She'll be the one.
Right. But how about yourself? How's your video coming along?
Good. Actually, just before this, I finished recording my on-camera segments. Just finished them just in the nick of time. But yeah, I'm covering the Winners Don't Use Drugs screen and the origins.
We were sort of talking about that earlier. That's Dare almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm covering the how it came about, why the Williams S. Sessions guy. He has a very interesting. I'll just say it. He was the first FBI. So the Winners Don't Use Drugs screen says Winners Don't Use Drugs. William S. Sessions, FBI director. But William S. Sessions doesn't appear after like the mid 90s on those screens because he was the first FBI director ever to be fired.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah, well, let's just say William Barr and Clinton agreed on getting rid of him. So you know he's not that great. So
Bill Clinton doesn't like you. You're a scumbag.
Yeah. Clinton and William Barr, like, this guy's got to go.
Yeah, they really had a pretty low bar with that one.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not going to make this video anymore. But yeah, it's coming along great. I went to a barcade to get some live video of the screens as well. So yeah, it's going good.
Great. Glad to hear it. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us live here on Obscurity Now. The video will be available on YouTube tomorrow, as well as the podcast version. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with your friends, your loved ones, your mom and dad, and your dad who doesn't like you because of parental pride.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, may the power of the good and the way of the magic be with you.
All right, that's good. We'll see you next week.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.